Okay guys, so I'm going to compare and contrast Final Cut Pro to Premiere Pro. I've been using Final Cut Pro for probably since like 2003, maybe 2002. So I'm pretty used to the layout of Final Cut Pro, how everything works. I'm making the switch to Premiere Pro just because I use After Effects so heavily. So I just want to show you, if you haven't made the switch, what you may be expecting, the pros, the cons. And I'll just tell you right now, the pros really outweigh the cons by quite a bit. But let me just break it down and at least show you the process of setting up the same project in Final Cut Pro and in Premiere. But this is just me doing a little intro talking about Shanks effects and how great it is. And I imported it on my Canon 5D or 6D, and I brought in the H.264 original file that was recorded onto the memory card, and also the ProRes LT version I transcoded in MPEG Streamflip. I brought them into different sequences. And when we go into Premiere Pro, we're going to do the same thing and just see how well Premiere Pro handles H.264 files compared to Final Cut Pro. Because the myth is that you don't have to transcode your footage to work in Premiere Pro. It's not a perfect fix, as some might think. And I tried doing Final Cut 10, but it was just way too much like iMovie. So if I'm going to be making a switch, I'm definitely going on the side of Premiere as opposed to trying to go through that whole Final Cut X thing. Not for me. Okay, so for the one thing I will say about Final Cut Pro is I just really like the way the layout looks. It's really easy on the eyes. I just don't like the way the blade tool works as much. And I think there's too many lines here. And I'm sure you can take a lot of this stuff away if you wanted to. But just going from an overall first impression, that kind of bugs me. I just really like Final Cut for the ease I can between getting there and back, making little cuts, exiting things out. And that's something I guess I'll get over eventually. But I really like the way Final Cut the scrubber tool handles and my blade tool handles. There's not too many icons and emblems and stuff like that. It's just a really clean layout, and the stuff just really interacts well. You can snap stuff really easy, and I find that it doesn't snap as well in Premiere. I know you can undock panels and all like that, but just snap into place. I don't need to tell you to dock or undock. Just be smarter than that. Another good thing about Premiere Pro is that you can set how you want your hotkeys to work, and you can even set them already to something very similar to what Final Cut is set for. And to do that, you go to Premiere Pro, keyboard shortcuts, and look, you can even set it to Final Cut Pro 7. So we have our H.264 here, and as you can see when I try to scrub, it's pretty choppy. And that's just H.264 footage for you. It's going to be the same way in Premiere Pro. So, as you can see, it still doesn't scrub that well, as opposed to the LT. As opposed to our LT version, it scrubs a lot better, doesn't it? So, even if you think by switching to Premiere Pro you never have to transcode again, I still think it's wise if you're doing a really intense edit, having transcoded files so you can scrub better is very helpful. So my advice is to keep transcoding. The computer handles it way better, and in the long run I think it saves you time, even though you think you're saving time in the front end more. Now, when you bring in an H.264 file, you shouldn't have to render it in Final Cut Pro until you start throwing in transitions, and that's going to pop up every time, unrendered, when you try to play it back. But just to do that simple 1-second transition to fade it out, that took probably 30 seconds to do. Let's add a red giant filter here, which makes it look a lot better. So let's time this out and see how long this takes to render. This is a 12-second clip. And when it doesn't show a time already, that's not a good start. So 7 minutes we're looking like. That took 3 minutes. So, in 3 minutes in editing time, you could be doing a lot other things other than just sitting and waiting. Now, let me apply the same effects we applied. It almost plays back pretty crisp. And that is pretty crazy. That's probably my favorite thing about Premiere, is that it can handle these filters a whole lot better. The one thing I do like about Final Cut is that I know it's very minimal, but I notice this right away when I switch to Premiere. All right, you see if I'm playing and I want to like skip ahead, and I'll go to like right here. See, it continues playing, right? And I do this a lot when I'm just like scrubbing around. I don't want to hit it and it stop like that. Like I'm playing it and then I'm just gonna click forward. But in Premiere Pro, when you're doing that, and let's say you were to click anywhere else, it would stop. And you would have to hit play again. So I'm playing it, click there, boom, uh-oh, I can't play it. I have to hit play again, and that's just kind of a pain. And I've even talked to one of the designers and somebody that works with Adobe, and this is something that they know about and they're trying to work on, because they, believe it or not, they've actually have gotten quite a few complaints about this little feature that Premiere Pro seems to do or doesn't do. So that's just a little thing to be aware of. Final Cut has been known to be horrible with their audio filters, and I definitely can understand that. Especially it'll create little pops in the audio or little clicks, which is a pain. But for your reverb, it gives you effects mix, effects level, brightness, and then you have settings here. I love the tunnel. Now I gotta render that. Can't do it on the fly. You see, if I try to play with it there, I gotta re-render it. You'll see in Premiere, the layout looks better, your windows look a lot better, your options are way more, and this is definitely an improvement from Final Cut Pro. Okay, so here's with your reverb. And you just have a little bit more play, and it breaks it down for you of where the person is and how far it falls off. You get some density, size, absorption, pre-delay, low damp, high damp mix, a few more settings. But nice, and also look, I'm altering it in real time. I don't have to pause it, render it, try something else, pause it, render it. You can alter on the fly, which is huge. Now, the one thing about Premiere that's a little weird is that they already set keyframes for you with all of your properties, like your level, bypass, your opacity. It just already has a keyframe set. So, which isn't that big of a deal, but let's say, oh, this audio is too high. I want to go to -6. So it's going to automatically set a keyframe for you. And you may forget about that because you think it's at -6. So then if you like, oh, it's actually better at 4, then you actually set 2 keyframes. So what I do, if I know I'm going to be editing the clip a lot, I always go in and I just select these, so I can set my own keyframes, and it's not going to start setting keyframes. Or I know right now that there's not going to be any keyframes set if I alter the volume, but there will be if you don't turn those off. And I think that's just some sort of technical issue that they do to handle audio and the video files in a certain way, but not a huge deal. But something was just like, come on guys, do we have to have these select to start off with? Can't we just have them unselected? Now your position scale don't have them, which is nice. Opacity does though, so you got to turn off your opacity, or turn off that little stopwatch. And if I was going to make a simple color correction filter, I would do the color corrector 3-way, but it doesn't really have a curves filter, which is something that, I mean, nowadays you got to have a curves filter, and it kind of sucks that it doesn't have one. So this is kind of the way to color correct back in the day, old school style. I can do a curve. So drop that on, and look. Very nice. So let me add in a little bit of text real quick. Text. Joey Shanks. Okay. Now obviously we're going to turn our filters off just for now. We do the traditional drop shadow. And this is another area where Premiere is leaps and bounds superior to Final Cut Pro. These are all the options we have for your simple text. And I know you could use LiveType or other things like that, but I don't want to be opening up other programs. I want to be able to do this stuff on the fly. 3-second little clip, I'm gonna have to render it. And drop shadow stuff actually takes a little while. And when I mean a little while, it might take a minute. So that took about 45 seconds to do that. The title tool is kind of nice. The one really nice thing is you can see what the fonts look like. Who knew? We can move them down, and I think it should see adjust accordingly. And another sweet thing is, let's add some transitions. But this drop shadow works, and we don't have to render it to see it. Change it like that to the small caps, underline it. Just a lot more options, and it's just, you can look at your title styles here if you want a nice little white outline on it. It gives you a lot more room to play around and get something that looks pretty good. The one thing I don't like about the title thing is that, let's say Joey Shanks here, and if I copied it and pasted it to just Shanks, it affects it there as well. So if I wanted to add another one, I would have to copy it, then drag it down here. Just something I wish that maybe it would automatically put something else in here up in your project panel, as opposed to changing everything within that clip. So something to be mindful of. And when I was doing this shot, I also realized, oh crap, I forgot to turn on my Neutrino wand because it has little lights on it, and I'm talking about this Neutrino wand in the clip. So that would have looked a lot better if I had those lights. So what I did was then of the clean shot with it on, and I was gonna mask in the lights and just select these guys and add that into the shot, just because without those lights the focus of the proton pack just isn't as defined. But if I wanted to do that, I would probably have to turn off these filters, export this clip, open up After Effects, bring this clip in, mask it in, re-export it, then import it back in here, then apply the effects to it, which can take a long time. The thing is, with a Premiere Pro, it is made to go hand in hand with After Effects. Okay, so I have After Effects open, but I want to open up a sequence from Premiere. So I'm going to File, Adobe Dynamic Link, and I'm Import Premiere Pro Sequence. And I'm going to go down to the Final Cut versus Premiere project file, and it has it right here. And sometimes it takes a little longer, but I've already been doing this a couple tests, so it knows where to find it. And since I have two LTs right here, let me just make sure that I label this like LT2 so it doesn't get confused. There we go. You see it. It says LT2. So select it. And we have that here. So let's drag it and make a new composition. Alright, so we can see that here. Now, the cool thing about this is I can make changes in Premiere and it'll affect this composition. So let's say I want to turn this Joey Shanks off. Let's go into Premiere and let's hide this. And let's go back into After Effects, and you see it's gone. So just nice that you can turn things off, turn off preferences, see how effects look, see how they don't look. Just nice to have this option. So we want to be putting these little lights right here in the shot. So I'm just going to take like the middle section, because sometimes the camera might move a little bit when I go and hit record on the camera, so I want to go in the middle so there's not moving much. So that's good. So I'm going to copy it, and let's go back in here and let's paste it and zoom in a little bit. And I just want to highlight this part of the light. Let's feather it, like 25. And you see we now have some lights in there. And I know it's subtle, but I think it definitely brings a little bit more life to that proton pack. Okay, so we have this now. Now we could re-import this, or we can do a lot of different things with this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off so when I import it back, it won't be rendering as much. So I'm going to delete this and just have this. Alright, so now we go in Premiere, we'll go to Adobe Dynamic Link, and let's import After Effects composition. And we want the LT2, that one. And we don't need the audio. And as you can see it there. So that's just another nice thing that you can do to add in, to incorporate After Effects into Premiere Pro. Okay, also I didn't mention, if you guys don't use MPEG Stream Clip, it's a great way to transcode your footage to ProRes LT files. And I'm not quite sure what the best file to transcode with for PC-based systems. I know ProRes LT works really good, but I'm not really sure for PCs. I still bring a lot of my LT files in and they work fine. So anybody out there, let me know what I should be converting my original files captured from my HD SLR. What should I convert those to if I'm working on a PC? But for those of you guys who don't know much about MPEG Stream Clip, it's a free software program, and when you record your stuff and you need to transcode it into a better format, you open it up here, you pull it online, and it'll be this guy right here, and you double click on it and open it up, and you're going to open files, and I'm going to use those screen capture files I captured for this episode. But I want it to be a ProRes LT file. So I'm going to export to QuickTime. I have a preset here, but I'll do it the default way. So I'll go to here and then I go Apple ProRes LT. I want it 100% quality. Sound, there's no sound. I don't want it interlaced. And I want to make this 23.9. Call this 1LT. A lot of times I keep the masters and I'll just label the same name, but I'll just put LT on it so I know it's been compressed, or transcoded I should say. Okay, so that's all for now, guys. Just wanted to show you guys how I transcoded, and once it's done, it will now be a ProRes LT file. I guess real quick I can show you the size wise how much bigger they are. Twice as big, but if you made it an HQ file or a 422 file, it would be like triple that. So this one originally is 300 megabytes and now it's 450, so 2/3 bigger. So it's just something to be mindful of. But that kind of just wraps up my little breakdown between Final Cut Pro and Premiere Pro. And like I said, I still love Final Cut Pro. That's what I learned on. That's what I worked on for so many years. But with me starting to use After Effects so much, I had to make the switch, and I think it's the right switch to make when you're trying to transition into the future and all of these new updates and filters and new technology. So it's the right thing to do to stay current and up to date. And also, any of those Final Cut X users out there, let us know how the workflow is for you guys, and maybe I should look into Final Cut X. And perhaps I have given up on it too quickly. So let me know how your experiences have gone with that, and maybe why you prefer Final Cut X over Premiere. And maybe we have something to look into that realm. So, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is Joey Shanks. I will see you next Wednesday. Have a good one, guys. I'm out.